Tottenham versus Chelsea, a rivalry built on pure and utter hatred. But it hasn't always been that way. In today's video, we delve deep into the complete history of the Lily Whites versus the Blues. The two teams first met at Stamford Bridge on the 18th of December in 1909, as Tottenham only joined the Football League in 1908 and won promotion to the Football League First Division in 1909. The match was won by Chelsea 2-1, but at this point it wasn't a rivalry. Both teams following on from this fixture struggled in the following season, and they met again at White Hart Lane on the 30th of April 1910 on the final game of the season, with both fighting for survival in Division 1. Spurs beat Chelsea 2-1, sending Chelsea down, with the winning goal scored by former Chelsea player Percy Humphreys. This was the first real problem Chelsea had with Tottenham. Chelsea fans were furious about the fact they'd gone down, and therefore a lot of that anger was directed towards the side that had sent them down, Tottenham. It wasn't really hatred at this point though from the Blues, more just bitterness. The two clubs would meet over the next few decades in league games and in cup competitions, but the next big meeting between the two was in 1967 as Spurs and Chelsea contested the first ever All-London FA Cup final, dubbed the Cockney Cup Final. Tottenham won this game 2-1 thanks to goals from Jimmy Robertson and Frank Saul, with Chelsea unable to complete a comeback despite a late strike from Bobby Tambling. The result was all the more difficult to take for the Blues as Tottenham's team featured ex-Chelsea duo Jimmy Greaves and Terry Venables. In the 74-75 season, Tottenham versus Chelsea became a rivalry. The two clubs faced off in one of the final games of the season and fought out a bitter battle against relegation from the First Division. Before the game, Tottenham were in the relegation zone and Chelsea were a point ahead of them. The tension of the game led to fans invading and fighting on the pitch before the game had even started. After a delayed start, Tottenham won the game 2-0, yet again beating Chelsea in a major game. Chelsea failed to win either of their remaining two games and were ultimately relegated from the First Division, with Tottenham staying up via a solitary point. Chelsea fans and the club as a whole were furious with Spurs. Around this time, hooliganism was rife in English football, and Tottenham versus Chelsea produced some of the most violent clashes between firms. In the 80s on the pitch, it was a mixed bag of results between the two sides. The focus was more on what was happening off it between the fan bases. In the early 90s, things started to change on the pitch. Chelsea became dominant in the fixture. Starting from September 1990, they were unbeaten by Spurs for over a decade, including a 6-1 win at White Hart Lane in the 97-98 season. On the 5th of November 2006, Tottenham beat Chelsea 2-1 at White Hart Lane, ending a 16-year period without victory against the Blues in the league. Spurs did, however, beat Chelsea in 2002 during a 5-1 win in the second leg of the League Cup after a 2-1 defeat at Stamford Bridge, resulting in an aggregate score of 6-3. Spurs occasionally had some joy against Chelsea, but these were Chelsea's best years, especially the early 2000s under Jose. On the 11th of March 2007, Chelsea and Tottenham met in the FA Cup quarter-finals, with Chelsea coming back from 3-1 down to earn a replay. But it wasn't the thrilling game that stole the headlines. It was both sets of fans clashing on the streets of London the following day. 10 fans were left in serious critical condition, and it goes to show the level of disgust both sets of fans have for the other. Chelsea won the replay 2-1 and progressed into the semi-finals. In the following year, the two faced in the League Cup final. Thankfully, there was a lack of violence around this one, and Tottenham Hotspur came out with a 2-1 victory, their first trophy since 1999. It felt big for the club, but it was painful for Chelsea to lose to Tottenham, something that they hadn't been used to for many years at this point. Over the next few years, Chelsea competed for titles whilst Tottenham struggled to get into Europe. But Tottenham had acquired a target in 2013 that they believed could change their fortunes: the young Brazilian prospect Willian. He'd attracted interest from many Premier League clubs, but Tottenham looked to be top of the list, and in the summer of 2013, the deal was almost done. Willian flew into London, completed his medical at Spurs, only at the last moment to speak to Chelsea and join the Blues. It was a massive hijack for Roman Abramovich's Chelsea, one that felt like a victory for their fans, but it was a dagger blow for Tottenham, a star that could have changed their fortunes, moved them up the table, and fell through. A deal had collapsed, and not only had this massive deal collapsed, he joined one of the club's biggest rivals. Willian claims years later that Chelsea was his first preference and he would have only signed with Tottenham if the deal with Chelsea fell through. He was hanging on for that offer from Chelsea that came. A huge victory for the Blues and a massive blow for the Lily Whites. The next big game between the two took place on the 1st of March 2015, the League Cup final. Chelsea won this game 2-0 thanks to goals provided by John Terry and Diego Costa, and it was a massive moment for the club as they surpassed the amount of trophies that Tottenham had won. But yet again, like so many other clashes between the two sides, what happened on the pitch didn't take the headlines. It was reported that there were many anti-Semitic and racist chants coming from Chelsea fans towards Spurs fans. In the following season, Tottenham's league performance massively improved under Mauricio Pochettino, and for the first time in their history, they were a contender for the Premier League title. Chelsea, on the other hand, had their worst season in 20 years, which saw their manager Jose Mourinho sacked after a bad start to the season. Tottenham headed into a huge game at Stamford Bridge on the 2nd of May 2016, a match that Tottenham needed to win to have a chance at winning the league, as Leicester were starting to pull away at the top. Tottenham took the lead in the first half with 2 goals scored by Heung-min Son and Harry Kane. In the second half though, they started to crumble. Gary Cahill brought the Blues back into the game and Eden Hazard scored a fantastic equaliser and the game ended 2-2. This automatically gave Leicester City their first ever Premier League title, a historic moment for the Foxes, but this was also arguably the closest Tottenham had come to winning the league since their last title in 1961, and it was Chelsea of all teams to stop them achieving it. The match saw many altercations between players and benches on and off the field, especially after Hazard scored the equalising and final goal. Mark Clattenburg, who refereed the game, subsequently stated that he could have sent 3 players off for Tottenham, but chose instead to allow them to play on, giving the team a total of 9 yellow cards, a Premier League record. There were also 3 yellow cards for Chelsea, and Moussa Dembele received a 6-match suspension for violent conduct. As a result, both clubs had to face 3 FA charges and they were fined for failing to control their players. A game that would be shown on Premier League Gold for years had further intensified the rivalry between the two teams. On the 4th of January 2017, Spurs beat Chelsea 2-0 at White Hart Lane in the final meeting between the two sides at the historic stadium. Spurs finished second this season, 1 place higher than they did in the previous season and on 86 points, more than they got in the previous season, but it still wasn't enough for Mauricio Pochettino's men to win the league. Who stopped them? Antonio Conte's Blues, who finished 7 points higher on 93 and won the league title despite losing to Spurs. Spurs were getting more joy during this period under Mauricio Pochettino against the Blues than they ever had done before. In the following season, they won their first game in the Premier League at Stamford Bridge 3-1 thanks to fantastic goals from Dele Alli and Christian Eriksen. This was massive for the football club. To go to Stamford Bridge and win for the first time in the Premier League, it was a huge confidence boost, but they still couldn't win the league in the following season. Since these years, neither club has been able to compete for the Premier League title. Managers have come and gone, players have come and gone. But one thing has remained the same. When Tottenham Hotspur face Chelsea, it's intense, it's exciting, it's thrilling, and it's full of pure and utter hatred. And Thomas Frank Spurs this Saturday versus Enzo Maresca's Blues will be no different. It will be intense, it will be exciting, it will be thrilling. It will be Tottenham versus Chelsea and what the rivalry is built on. Thank you guys for watching this video. Take care of yourselves. And as always and forever, come on, you Spurs.